This vehicle is probably one of the best Toyotas out there. This is a 2001 Toyota Camry, has over 200,000 miles, I think 210, 220, maybe a little less, but this vehicle has been fantastic. I've had it for about 6 or 7 years. It's currently my brother's vehicle and it's never let us down. I paid $300 for this vehicle because the timing belt was popped on it. And if you know anything about these Toyotas of this vintage, the 2.2 liter engine, the timing belt pops, just pop in another one. Unless you run it for like many, many miles, it doesn't spin the water pump, then it overheats, then that's definitely no bueno. So in today's video, we're gonna try to keep this thing on the road for many, 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 many more miles. And the way that you do that is just simply change the oil. That's all we've done. It's just really change the oil. I mean, of course we did spark plugs and other stuff, but we need to change the oil. But let's take a look at it. I mean, it has the gold color, which I'm not a big fan of this color. The gold is, you either love it or you hate it. Let me know in the comments. Of course, you can see that the door handle doesn't match because that's typical of the Toyotas of this vintage. The door handles break, but you can get them cheap on eBay, Amazon for like $10, I think, and you're good to go. Now, one thing that's weird about this, and I've always seen it, and maybe people can let me know in the comment, is the bumper doesn't match that one. But every Toyota I've ever seen, the bumper never matches the color of the body. And it's weird, especially one of this vintage with this color. I'm not sure if it's the sun or the paint, but this one was never in a rear end collision. The bumper, all the fasteners are all original, but the paint don't match. I don't get it. Now this one has the spoiler option on it for all the horsepower that this thing doesn't have. Now, one thing about these cars is that they're very comfortable, they're very reliable, but they're very anemic. They don't have power. But considering, I mean, the way they ride and how reliable they are, I think that's a fair trade-off. Now going on to the inside, I mean, that's it, plain Jane. Now, the cool thing about these type of Toyotas is that you have this right over here, so you could put a double DIN radio, put something nice, a little GPS navigation. Obviously, we have the single DIN radio, but I mean, that's pretty much it. Tan interior, headliner still holding up pretty good. But I mean, the interior on these Toyotas, they hold up very, very well. So now, let's pop open the hood. Probably need to put a little bit of lube on that. Oh, that's a little noisy. And let's take a look underneath. And I'll get the mileage in just a sec. But working on this engine is a dream. I mean, everything is just right there. If you have to rip this motor out, which typically you don't, as long as you keep it, you know, full of oil and don't overheat it, comes right out. Very simple. Working over here on accessories, not too bad. Timing belt is actually a fairly simple, easy job. Common issues that I see that I've had with this one, valve cover leaking. I mean, Toyota pretty much only used these 4 nuts to kind of hold it down, which it is what it is on that. So they leak, and I've had to replace it twice on this car. The other thing is these brittle hoses, which, you know, we just kind of make it work. We did this and, you know, that works good enough. Obviously, you have the evap issue where you have to change the charcoal canister in the back, but that's like $300. And in my state, if the vehicle's over, I think 20 years, you don't have to worry about that. So we're not going to spend that $300 when the car runs fine. But we do have a check engine light for the evap. I mean, other than broken door handles, the evap, and the leaky valve cover, I've never had any issues with it. Car still runs great and it's bulletproof. So let's get it up on the ramps and let's change the oil. All right, so let's dive underneath and let's take a look at it. Double check for leaks and seeps and creaks and all that stuff. Commonly, let's see, rear main, dry. Oil pan, I mean, maybe a seep. Nothing that says I need to go out and change it. So I'm just gonna leave that alone. Axle seal looks good. Everything in the front. Transmission looks good. Now I have serviced this transmission, so we're good on that. And then for those who use Toyotas of this vintage with the 2.2, I think this is like a differential, forget exactly what it calls for. Most people never change this fluid. There's a drain plug right over here. The fill plug is right up on the side, right, I think right over here, if I could get that in the camera. I think it's that one right over here. Or maybe, yeah, this one right over here. Pop that loose, drain this. I think this takes about a quart. And one of the reasons why these transmissions just tank prematurely is because this fluid never gets changed. So just kind of keep that in mind. Also be mindful of the mileage and all that other stuff. But anyways, everything looks good under here. So let's go ahead and drain this oil. Now it does have that gasket. These things are pretty cheap. You get like, I think 10 of them on Amazon for a couple of bucks. Actually, I think I wound up with a 100 pack, but they're good to change and just be mindful of them. They do stick to the pan, just like this one is. All right, and pull. So now this vehicle has 208,000 miles. We run 5W30 full synthetic on it, and we change the oil every 5,000 miles. But this one is about 400 miles over, but considering, still pretty good though. Short whiles later, folks, you can let this drain for like ever, but honestly, it's not gonna make much of a difference. So I'm good with that. This engine is well maintained. And the way you kind of tell a little bit is like when you change the valve cover gaskets, you kind of see, you know, what it's missing or what hasn't been done. The way I tell if these engines are pretty decent is valve cover. Open up your valve cover gasket. Get an idea of, you know, if the oil's been changed or not. And this one looks pretty good for 208,000 miles. So let's go ahead and snug this thing up. Torque spec. Yep. I mean, just be reasonable, you know? Just don't go crazy. All right, everything looks good down here. No major concerns. Like I said, the only thing is a slight, I mean, it's negligible seep from the oil pan, but nothing that's worth changing or anything like that. It's not leaving puddles. It's not dripping all the way down the exhaust or anything like that. And that's the thing with these old cars, you know, sometimes you just gotta, you know, leave them alone. Just fix what needs to be fixed and enjoy it. So let's head back up and let's drain the oil filter. So back up top, our oil filter is right here. Let's actually give you a better angle. Right there, which is convenient. And advice I'll give you, make sure you have an oil pan underneath, you know, or a oil drain bucket. That way it could catch what's gonna spill and not mess up your driveway. We're gonna use this. The engine is hot, be careful. This one is a little warm, but it feels really good because it's like 30 degrees Fahrenheit out here. So, you know, instead of like 3rd degree burn, we'll only get maybe 1st degree burn. So I'll take that. But realistically, there is a better tool for this, but this works. As you can see, all the oil is pouring out. All right, looks pretty good. Unfortunately, I have a Fram filter on it. I've gotten away from using Fram filters. I had a Chevy pickup. I think it was a 2009 Avalanche. I also had a 15 Ram with the Hemi. And those engines tend to tick. Now, Hemis, they have their tick because of the lifter and the cam thing, but even the Chevy, it had the multi-displacement thing, or whatever you call that, active fuel management. But when I changed the oil, I had read on a forum that it's better to use not Fram. So I started using the OEM ones for the Hemi. for the Ram using their filters. The tick went away. For the Chevy, I went ahead and used the AC Delco, went away. And then I even used the Wix one, which Wix are really good filters, and I never had those issues. But then when I went back to the Fram, I had a tick. So not saying they're bad filters, but just keep that in mind. Now I want to spray off all this oil. All right, looks better. And if you live in the Rust Belt with salt, leave it on there and, you know, you have anti-rusting treatment from the salt. We're moving on. Mobile One, M1 103A. I've been using these on all my vehicles because, well, they're better than the cheap stuff at Walmart. It had it in stock, so, and it is better than a Fram. So let's lube this up. Tighten this in. Come on. What in the world? Did I get it? Nope. There we go. All right, hand tight, should be good. Don't use a tool. I've seen people use tools and then you can't get it off. Definitely a bad day. So for the oil, SuperTech, full synthetic, 5W30. I use synthetic on all my engines, never had an issue. And this oil is pretty cheap, but if you keep up with the oil maintenance, you'll really never have issues. And I've been using that on most of my engines. So to each their own. This stuff works pretty good. So this thing calls for 4 quarts. Let's just throw in a bunch and hope for the best. Whoa, that was not a good idea. So now typically these things are deeper on most vehicles that I've used. So it kind of overfilled on the back. So we didn't have a leak before. We have one now. Well, not a leak, but just oil all over the place. All right, that should be about 4 quarts. We'll check that in a minute. It says 3.8 quarts. Close enough. I've used 4. It's been fine. Never had an issue with it. And besides, it's an old Toyota. It's probably going to burn a little bit off anyways, which is normal. So it's good. Now, what would a good oil change be without adding windshield washer fluid? This one, the light is on, so we're just going to try to pour this and spill it all over the place. All right, we got it. So let's walk around, check all the fluids. Antifreeze looks pretty good. You got to remember we're on a slope because we're on the ramps, but that looks pretty good. Power steering looks good. We flushed that many times just to kind of keep that good. Just looking around, belts look decent, no cracks or anything like that. And this is a good time to, you know, inspect your vehicle, find out exactly what else might break on you, or hopefully not. Our brake fluid is a little dirty. We'll have to, yeah, we're gonna have to do a flush on that pretty soon. And I think I did brand new brakes on this vehicle about when I got the car about 6 years ago. So might be time to just give it some service. But everything looks good. So let's go ahead, let's fire it up. Make sure that we have no ticks, tacks, or anything else that's gonna make us go crazy. Sounds good. Nothing leaking. So like I said, 208,926 miles. Whew, 600 miles over, but you know, that's fine. Check engine light on is on for the evap, but like I said, that doesn't affect the way the car drives. Nice and smooth. Brakes feel good. So everything works. Pretty cool. Well, knew everything was going too well. I don't know if you can see it in the camera right over there, and this GoPro does not zoom, but right there, kind of where my finger is on the left, is the water pump. Next to it is the weep hole, and I see the pink crusties, which means this water pump is probably gonna be time for service real soon. Bummer, but it is what it is, and if that's the worst, then, but like I said, it's a perfect time to check over everything. So we'll definitely be doing a water pump in the future, and we'll record it. And as far as our oil, obviously recycle. This is a container that I got years ago. I've been using this for years. Keep all my oil in it. Let this thing drain for a couple of days to get everything out. And then obviously I'll take it to, in my area, it's AutoZone. They're the ones that kind of do it. Advance and O'Reilly's, they do it at certain locations, I guess. I don't know. But AutoZone where I'm at is like right around the corner, so we'll dump it there. So make sure you recycle.